the information's out there. It has always been out there. I've been talking about this stuff for decades, way before I knew about Kevin Samuels, way before I knew about Patrice O'Neal. And thank you for mentioning Patrice O'Neal. He was a brilliant man. And I can say this, and unfortunately, I have to run because it's 12:43 in the AM in America. But number one, thank you very much for doing this. I appreciate it. My son texted me to let me know Kevin passed, and it was definitely jarring. And I think the level of emotional reaction that you had to this is in direct proportion to the value that he gave your life. Right. And that's why we feel something when someone like this dies. And for myself, the answer to your question about who's going to do it is everybody. You don't have to have a podcast to live this way, because I've been living, like, I'm not part of the manosphere, but the principles that Patrice talked about, some of the principles that Kevin talked about, I've been living these my whole life.
Right.
And
I was taught this growing up. My dad taught me this stuff.
No, I wasn't taught this. I learned from observation, right? I learned. I used to watch men, that happy wife, happy life nonsense. I used to watch men who talked about that stuff, who looked like hostages and they looked miserable, you know. and I was like, yeah, this can't be right because you don't look happy. Like, you know, I know my philosophy is right because I'm happy. Period. I'm happy, and I'm not happy at the expense of anybody. I'm not happy by harming anybody else. I'm just happy because I've organized my emotions in a certain way. I've organized my philosophy in a certain way. And the way I did it was to watch people around me as a child. You know, I didn't have a father growing up. I had to figure this all out. I had to watch films like The Godfather and Magnificent Seven and figure out what men are about, right? And I also watched all the men around me. And I grew up in Washington Heights, New York City, which was one of the roughest neighborhoods in New York City in the 60s and the 70s and the 80s. Okay. And I watched the pimps and the players and the thieves and all these guys and the drug dealers. I watched everyone in the game. I watched how they conducted themselves. And I saw how some men talked about their relationships and they looked miserable, and how other men talked about their relationships and they looked happy. And I was like, all right, I want to be one of the happy guys. So what do I have to do? So you know what I figured out? It's very simple. It ain't happy wife, happy life. It's happy me, happy everybody else. Okay.
There you go.
I have to prioritize my happiness. That does not mean be selfish. That does not mean be self-centered. It means be self-prioritizing. If I cannot make myself happy, how can I contribute to anybody else's happiness? The point is that we can all take the message of what it means to develop yourself as a man and then truly take care of the people in your life. And it's not about throwing money at the situation. That's not necessarily taking care of your family. All right. Taking care of your family is all encompassing. It means that you are the rock on which your family is based. Okay. That means emotionally, intellectually, from a leadership perspective, you be the one that leads your family the way it needs to be led. And some people are not going to agree. Some people used to tell me that I was too strict with my son. And I used to say, well, that's because I'm not raising a child. I'm raising a man.
There you go. You have to,
you know,
you have to have discipline.
You have to understand what your goal is, what your purpose in life is, and then develop yourself. My whole podcast is about self-development. I don't care about red pill, blue pill. I don't care about any of that stuff. I care about self-development so that you can be the best version of yourself possible, so that you can go out and support your family and support your community and be an example, so that when you die, people actually feel the passing of that.